Got it.
Hey guys. All right, so we are back with a brand new episode of Chatting with Asta. Today I have filmmaker Josh Forbes, and we'll be talking about everything from music to horror and everything in between. And if you are enjoying this show, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, interact with us. It'll keep me going and wanting me to keep making more acquaintances with people in this world. And yeah, that's pretty much the intro. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Hi, how's it going? Is it video and is it audio and video or just
Yes,
the
yes.
audio?
People
Okay, good.
will
All right.
people will see your impressive poster collection. So
Oh, good. Yeah.
yes,
This is
that's
and
really
my wet
important.
and my wet hair.
Yes,
This is
yes.
this is from the Bruce Campbell uh
Oh,
horror film festival that
yes,
I don't know how many times they did that, maybe once, but I had my first movie was there.
yes.
And then yeah, which
Yeah.
we can definitely
Hmm.
skip over, or we can talk about. But and then this is like a little sneak peek, some AI art I made um, for some set decoration for my new movie. So yeah,
That's really exciting.
I
So
know people are very angry about AI, but like I've been really enjoying, at least in the interim, like it's just been super crazy helpful.
yeah,
Um, so it's
yeah.
like, oh, we need posters, like we're gonna paste. I don't know. Like, well, I'll just make it. I don't know.
There you go. There you go. I mean, it's. I guess it's an argument for democratizing certain aspects of
Yeah.
filmation and also like design and everything. But yeah, I mean, you
I,
just touched on a
yeah.
couple of your features.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
just for context, you've directed Contracted Phase 2.
Phase two. Yes.
Yes, and you have an upcoming film called Destroy
Hmm.
All Neighbors. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes.
So those are both obviously I believe romantic comedies, correct?
Yeah. They're for they're children romantic
They're
comedies
children's movies.
for top. Yeah.
No, but
Um.
you definitely you've been developing a love of horror in your
Hmm.
feature fare. So what
Yeah.
first of all, since obviously you didn't work on Contracted the first one, what was it
Right.
like getting into to do a sequel? And like this one
Yeah.
definitely was a lot more like going there with the
Right.
brutal gore and like Fulci-esque like you
Yeah.
know.
Right. Yeah. It was a weird. It was a very weird process. Um. I got an email from a friend saying like, "Hey, do you want to do a zombie movie?" And I was like, "Yes."
Yes.
Well, hey, I know these guys, at Boulder Light Pictures, and they're these young guys, and they're, you know, crazy, and they're, whatever, looking for a sequel. And yeah, so then they like reached out to me, and I was like, oh, I love Contracted, and I had seen the trailer. But then I watched it, and I was like, okay, like this isn't completely my vibe, but
Yeah.
like I think I can get it at its head a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I like the mumblecore kind of like low budget, like, and it is, there's some humor to it too, and it is, it's surprising and whatever, and very vibey, like very cool, a cool vibe. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, okay. And at that time they had asked for like, I was like, cool, can I read the script? And they're like, oh, I don't have one yet. Like, we're looking for pitches. So
Yeah.
my pitch was like, I don't even know if I even ended up sending it to him, but my thing I wrote up was like all the like the guy, I think his name's Charlie Kuntz. I'm making that up. Whatever. The funny guy from the first one.
Yeah.
Um, he's like on a CSI whatever type
Yeah. Yeah.
show like right now. But anyway, my pitch was like that he would go on to spring break, and that he
Okay.
would somehow spread the disease to other people. But there's a lot. There's such a difficulty with the movie, the concept, because like the whole premise of Contracted One was that it's everything that happens before a zombie movie starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like, okay, well, how do you do that again?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because so much of the fun of zombie movies, obviously, is like zombies.
And the
So anyway, so I was like, okay, I think I submitted some idea or emailed them, and they were like, oh, we got it. Don't worry about it. We got somebody else.
Yeah.
And then it just disappeared. And I remember I was walking past the Vista, and I saw like the Coen brothers were shooting around the corner. And I was just like so like excited and inspired, and like I love the
Yeah.
Coen brothers. And then my phone rang. I think it was like right around that time. I was like, man, I think I really dodged a bullet that I didn't get that movie. Like I think I would have been. And then the phone rang, and it was like, hey, the other guy dropped out. Like, do you think you could do this movie in however many 16 days or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know. Send me the script. And I read it, and I was like, yeah, I guess, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
I think I had like 2 weeks to prepare from reading the script. Um, and it was crazy. I mean, it's like a lot of the cast was already locked in. I
Mhm.
was able to bring in, some of my friends, or I was able to kind of like, you know, pick some folks and stuff.
Yeah.
So we got, like my friend John Ennis, who was on Mr. Show,
Mhm.
and he was just I got him in as a as a cop. He was in like the latest season of Better Call Saul. He was like the the duplicate of a businessman. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
like I got John Ennis in. I got my friend Alicia Yaffe, and he was the one who like connected me with them. Like Alicia and this guy Josh Fadem, who's a hilarious comedian. Like I got them in as like as Mormons to get eaten by the grandma. You know. Um, so yeah, so I was able to try and inject as much of my thing as possible. But it was tough because I wasn't able to like really revise the script. Like I did what I could, but I had this whole other plot line of because have you seen the movie? I'm assuming, or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay if
Yeah.
you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Morgan Peter Brown, who plays whatever the bad guy in the movie, like there's a part where he has like a prostitute, I think, or like a woman. I guess it could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
just a regular woman, but I think you know, he has this woman in his basement, and so I had added a scene earlier where we got Whitney Moore to play a prostitute. Whitney Moore is a friend, and she was in Birdemic, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you and she's been in a bunch of other things too, and she's just like an awesome person. But I like I'm a big Birdemic fan, so I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, be cool.
Yeah.
So like my thought was like, oh, it's leading somewhere. I had this idea of him like having a brothel of zombies, like a zombie brothel.
I mean, it's contracted.
and then our lead guy Matt Mercer, I had this pitch where like he punches a zombie and he gets his hand bitten off,
Mhm.
and then he like stuffs a machete in the stump and tapes it and like
Uses
bites it,
it as
you
yeah,
know.
like in a
Yeah,
Bruce Campbell-y, like Ash moment.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And for some reason, with 2 weeks to go, they did not decide to do that. But anyway,
I
so it
mean,
was a weird experience. It was
yeah.
like it was a total gift, getting to have that feature under my belt.
Yeah.
Um, but there was definitely like friction between me and the producers. But they were also super young. They were like 20.
Yeah.
Is these two guys, and so it was like, and I was coming from the music video and
Yeah.
commercial world where I was very used to a certain, I don't know, level of budget or a certain level of just
Yeah. Professionalism.
like yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, because I mean the budget for this movie was like it was like film school level.
Yeah.
So like I was used to at that point being like, if I just wrote in an email, this guy's gonna have a red shirt, I'll just show up on set and he'll have the red shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
this movie, it was like, hey, does anybody know where the red shirt is?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll go buy one. Um, so I don't know, but it was great, and I got to meet a lot of great people. Like Matt Mercer's awesome. I don't know if
Yes,
you
he
know
is.
him.
Oh yeah, he's
Um,
so funny. He's so talented, and he has sort of this like. I feel like he would have been in the Twilight Zone back in the day, like
hmm
one of those
hmm
like company actor types. I think
Yeah,
he's very versatile, but
yeah,
he gets very physical and visceral in this movie.
yeah, yeah,
Like, so that's
yeah,
like really intense for any actor. So he must be a champ behind the scenes.
yeah. He's a total champ, and I mean, he also produces and directs, and
Yeah,
like, he's just a cool dude. And then Morgan Peter Brown, I got to become pretty good friends with. He's like
yeah,
the main baddie in it. he and I, we ended up doing like a Dungeons and Dragons thing, or like it was like a streaming role playing game thing for Blumhouse
Yeah.
um for a couple years. So I don't know. It was cool. It was a good experience. It was definitely weird.
Mhm.
Like it's a tough one for me to like recommend. Like, hey, go watch this. Um, because it doesn't fully feel like a movie to me. Like it feels like a TV show. Like I
Yeah.
feel like if this was the first episode of a, I don't know, like a like a Shutter. If this is like a Shutter first episode of a Shutter show,
Yeah.
you'd be like, holy shit! I'm in. This is crazy. Like it's a little janky, but there's like really great gore gags. That was the thing too. Is I really was able to lean into the gore,
Yeah.
um, and also like the soundtrack for the movie, the score was done by Jonathan Snipes, who did Room 237. Um, he did, I think he did Glitch in the Matrix too, my friend Roddy's movie, and he's also part of Clipping, which is this like rap group. I don't know. Anyway, like the soundtrack for the movie is awesome, and
That's
there's a ton of
important.
great performances.
That's
Yeah.
important. And that's actually a perfect segue to talk about your connecting horror to music, music to horror. You have
Hmm.
such an impressive director experience with music videos. And it's
Hmm.
something that I found really interesting when I was learning about you is that like one of the things like I want to do more directing, and one of the things that I wanted to like learn from you is like so
Hmm.
like if you want to do more directing, like music videos is a great way to be like, pow, here's a concept,
Hmm.
here's some visuals. We can
Hmm.
we can give this the importance of a feature in like boom, like a sizzle reel. So
Yeah.
so for our audience, um, just a few music videos that I can think of off the top of my head that you've worked on are you've worked with
Hmm.
Offspring, Good Charlotte,
Hmm.
you worked with Sara Bareilles on the Love
Hmm.
Song. You worked
Hmm.
with Walk the Moon on Shut Up and Dance, which you were nominated for an MTV Movie Music Award. And
Hmm.
like, how did you get into that? What is your process with like
Hmm.
either collaborating on ideas, or do you go like, "Hey, I want to have a gig with you. I want to make this cool
Right.
video." Like, talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, because like growing up, it's weird because I can never pinpoint the moment when I was like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I could definitely pinpoint the moment when I wanted to be a comedian,
yeah,
which never panned out.
yeah,
Um, but I don't remember when I was really wanting to be a filmmaker. But I remember I would watch all these like behind the scenes, and
yeah,
it just like stuck with me. Like every now and then, like you'd get HBO for a month. Uh, this is, I'm betraying my age, but so does my face. But
yeah.
like you'd get HBO for a month, and then they'd play the movies, and then they would play like the behind the
Behind the
scenes
scenes, yeah,
things as kind of filler. And there's always it's like, oh, what that's what I want to do. Anyways, but like the main guys for me were like Spike Jones, and then this DVD series came out called like the Director series, where it was like Michelle Gondry and Mark Romanek,
yeah.
um, and then Chris Cunningham too. But the thing was, I was like, okay, I don't like. I want to be making movies, like I want to be Steven Spielberg or whatever, but I
Yeah,
can't. I don't know how to do that from here. I can't get from here to there. But
yeah,
I look at like a Spike Jones video for like The Breeders or something, or like some skate video,
yeah,
and I'm like, okay, I think I can go from here to there.
yeah,
And if I can get to there where he is, then I can maybe get to so that was the thought, was like, because everybody else that I knew, like I went to this stupid private Christian college called Biola. That's
uh-huh.
like, I went there for 2 years, and it's just like it was I met a bunch of great people, but it's like it's just dumb. Maybe it's good for some people, but like everybody there, the only people there were making things, were making these like very expensive shorts that their family was paying for,
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't have any money, like I don't know how to get to that. So I
yeah,
was like, okay, well, if I can get to a band, they already have a song,
mm-hmm.
so we have something to work with. Like they already have some level of a built-in audience,
Yeah,
um, and they would have some incentive to either do it, which is huge for me as a guy who's
yeah,
just some kid or whatever, but then also like to maybe pay for it. So
yeah,
the first one that I did, there was this like band called the Spivvies. There was this like in like the school I went to was like in Orange County, and there was like kind of this like ska scene, and so the Spivvies were like a retro kind of 50s, uh, not even rockabilly, like kind of
Yeah.
nerd Billy or something. And I just they were like they were like a they would play at Christian festivals and they were Christians, but they didn't like play Jesus music. They just played like
What they
whatever,
yeah.
just fun time, whatever. And so at some point, I would just listen to their music and I would just write like short films to their music. I was just like, oh, I just want to do something with this song or this song. And then at some point, a friend of mine like joined the band, my friend Phil Vecchio, and
Yeah.
he became their bass player. And so I was like, okay, here we go. Like, Phil, can we do a music video for your band?
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, sure. And so I raised, I think I raised like $1,500 on my own, and then I co-directed it with my friend Jeff, who later we kind of like determined he was the producer and I was the director. Because
Mhm.
like I would be the guy who's like, oh, the shot will look like this, and he was the guy who was like, hey, can we get this stage for like free?
Yeah.
Um, and so anyway, long story long, then we met a DP that had he had a fridge full of 35 millimeter that he's just like didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And so what's funny too is it's like I had already left that school and I was back in Colorado, and so like finishing up at University of Colorado,
Yeah.
and I was able to like for my senior project I was like I want to do this music video,
Yeah.
and so I flew back to LA and we shot it, and it's actually pretty awesome. I'm like so proud of it. Like it's really I think it's you know it works. It totally
Yeah.
works. And it's
Yeah.
funny. So anyway, so I was able to do that, and then from there, um, from there, then I had some right. I had a thing,
Yeah.
and it was good. Um, and so then like the other thing is I used to write music reviews, and the whole reason I wrote music reviews or movie reviews was one I like writing, but then also like I could get free CDs
Oh
in the
yeah.
mail.
Music. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so again, betraying my age, like this is back when like you had to get those CDs.
CDs
So
is
I would, yeah. So that was my whole thing was I was like, okay, I would look and see who's coming into town. I would write to them like, hey, I hear that there's you guys are coming
yeah.
and playing here. Like, I'd sure love to know, love to write a review for you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Send
could
me
send
your
me some music.
music. Yeah.
And so every 9 times out of 10, it was always like a publicist, like, okay, here you go, and
Mhm.
you kind of get put in the pipeline. But then every now and then, like, one time out of 10, it would you'd get an email back from like a guy in the band. And if you get an email from the guy in the band, then it's like, okay, like I got you. I'm like, hey, I am a filmmaker. Like, I love your music. Like, I'd love to work with you. Um, and so, which I imagine now is a lot easier with
Yeah.
you know social media and stuff. But so there was this band called Irving, um, and I since like named my youngest son's middle name is Irving, and it's like it's kind of you know a little bit
Interconnect.
of Washington, a little
Yeah.
bit of Washington Irving, a little bit of the band,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and you know they took a chance on me. But basically, I was like, look, you know, I want to film you guys on green screen. I had a friend who's an illustrator, and he knew a guy who could animate in After Effects, and so I was like, um, I'd seen a video for the band The Hive, um, where it was like something an American cinematographer I'd read about it, where it's like green screen and whatever. So I was like, okay, I think if I can get my friend Max, who was my roommate, who's an amazing artist, um, to do drawings, and we get the band, and so then I was working at some super crappy website called musicplustv.com, which
No,
is just it was just a weird garbage
straightforward.
scam. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was there, and they nicely let me use their green screen. So for like $200, like for food, and I think I gave them $200 to use the green screen. We shot the band, we got them on green screen, and then it took a while to get it animated, but then we had another video, and it was really and I think it's really good too. Um, and then from there, the bass player from that band, this is boring or maybe it's interesting, but the bass player from that band started a band called Seawolf. And then that one, he split the budget with me.
Ah,
So I think it was like 2,500 on my end, 2,500 on his end. And I was just like, at the time, like I was just working at Starbucks. Like I was
yeah,
working as a PA. I was working at musicplustv.com as like for minimum wage as like the vice president or something. It was like one of these things.
yeah.
You're the head of whatever.
Music.
I ran a magazine for a while. They printed up a
Yeah.
magazine and whatever. Um, so anyway, so we did Seawolf, and then that people like that. It's like a song you'd hear like at Starbucks and stuff, while I was working it. But then a band called the Submarines, their manager saw that video and
Mhm.
reached out, and and then it kind of kept building up. I mean, I remember the Submarines, like the budget was $5,000, and
Mhm.
I like photographed it, and I was like so
Yes.
excited.
Yeah.
And we built an entire like submarine set like in a warehouse for like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, but so from there, then it's like it just kept kind of building up and up, where like with that's what happened was Seawolf, or I think Irving was part of a record label called Eeny Meeny Records.
Hmm.
And Eeny Meeny is run by this Japanese lady named Reiko, who's just awesome. She's just this like wild, crazy, like
Yeah.
um, amazing woman. So anyway, so she was like, "Oh, let's get you to do another video for one of our other bands." And then I did one from there. And then at a certain point, I had like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then a rep showed up in my email in my inbox. This woman, Lynette Phillips, and she was like, "Hey, I'm friends with some of the guys in uh, Irving. Like, I'd love to meet with you. Like, I'm looking to represent some directors. And so then from then, like, I was still working at an ad agency at that point. At some point, I lost my job at Music Plus TV, and I got this other job, and I was doing like I would do like wardrobe fittings at the office, like because like half the agency had been shut down or whatever. So I would have meetings, and we would go to the other side of the building, and we would like do wardrobe fittings and pre-pro and stuff. And then anyway, blah blah blah. So the long and short of it was just that sort of incremental like
Yeah.
um you know
Can
and so much of it was too like finding those people who have amazing skills
Mhm.
who aren't getting to use them.
Yes.
So you would find people who would do motion graphics, but like all they would do all day is like make an Audi logo flip
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's like they want to do stuff, like they have all these skills and their bills are being paid, but they want to do something creative. It's like, okay, cool, come over here and do this.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
no, that's like the thing I learned early on about filmmaking was besides like, you know, wanting to give yourself a showcase by being like, okay, well, I want to direct, but like I want to direct music video. Like this is a way in and
Hmm.
connections and all that is like treating it like a heist movie. Like you're like,
Hmm.
I know a guy that does something
Hmm.
that I know I can use in my film. But and I had friends who
Yeah.
were musicians but had never done a film score. And I had
Hmm.
friends who had shot stuff but hadn't been able to show their range narratively. And I had, like, so you were just, and I think it also comes to the point of like always be talking about your passions because you never know how like
Hmm.
people will be able to help you out. Like restaurants especially, like if you have a regular spot you go to and they know you're a
Hmm.
filmmaker and you're like, I actually would love to shoot here, like 9 times out of 10
Hmm.
they will not even consider charging you. Like they'll just want like
Hmm.
product placement or like bragging rights or
Right.
whatever. So
Can
it's
I
kind of
can I
like,
be in the background or something?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And it's funny because
Yeah.
for our audience, the reason you and I met was because, and this doesn't happen to me that often, is that
Hmm.
I met you at one of my survival jobs, and then now you've met me at both of two of my
Yeah.
survival jobs. So
Yeah.
they involved like basically coffee, and like the thing I love about working at like as a barista in general and working at coffee shops is like you overhear so much stuff. And so lately I've just
Hmm.
been inserting myself, like being like, hey,
Hmm.
that's really interesting. And they're like, you're an actress? And I'm like, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but that's how we met. As
Well,
I thought,
and the places you work at, like, because I worked in coffee for a zillion years,
yeah,
like the places you work, like, are the kind that I would love to work, because it's like it's a community spot. Like, you
yeah,
get to actually talk with people. It's
oh yeah,
not, because I
people,
worked at Starbucks like right around the time when it started turning into like a fast food restaurant.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know.
No, I work at a place in Pasadena, so we're both currently Pasadenans, which is its
Hmm.
own thing. It's like
Yeah.
very. I mean, I'm coming from New York, and then I'm here, and it's like it's very idyllic. It's very like
Hmm.
uh America, like the America suburban that you picture in films, and obviously like some films
Right.
like Halloween and Back to the Future, but
Hmm.
it does create sort of this environment where people are a lot more generous with their time and their energy with you and like
Hmm.
resources. And but yeah, I met you in because you had like a Return of the Living Dead pin, and just me
Yeah.
knowing that, it was like that's what I love about the horror community. Just me knowing that started a conversation, which made us
Yeah.
realize like all the overlap we had, which was just so. It was just
Right.
like it was such like a kismet little situation.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean it's crazy because like when I was like looking into your background, I was like,
Hmm.
oh wow, like I it does take a certain amount of swagger to be able to even do like the level of like music videos and ads that you've done, because you kind of
Hmm.
have to be competent enough that people trust you with a budget,
Hmm.
also competent enough like I'm sorry, like you've worked with Betty White, you've worked with
Hmm.
John
Yeah.
Legend, you've worked with
Right.
Judith Light, like it's
Hmm.
like these are people who like
Yeah.
how do you like go on set and act like you bear like you
Yeah.
do you like fawn over any of these people, or do you just go like yeah I pretend like, and then later you're like oh my god like
No, because it's like it's people. I don't want to say it's people I don't care about, because that's mean. Like, because I care about them as people,
yeah,
but
but they're they're
like
big
if it was like
people.
Don Coscarelli or something, I
Okay,
would like lose my
yeah, yeah,
mind. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if
yeah,
it was somebody
in your wheelhouse of
in my
fan,
little geeky world,
yeah, yeah,
like if it was Edgar Wright, or I don't know, just like people that I like totally, uh, you know, obsess over, then I would, it's like they're just people, man.
yeah.
No, I don't know. It's like for whatever reason, I'm like really comfortable around
that's
celebrities, whatever that means.
that's that's
But
good,
yeah,
because I,
yeah.
I think that there's a certain level of I've just realized in general, like in all the different jobs I've worked,
Hmm.
either on sets or survival jobs, it's like
Hmm.
the richer and more prominent people are, like I could be wrong, but like the
Hmm.
more you should treat them like nobody. Like it's like
Kind of,
they
yeah.
sort of like don't want you to acknowledge their importance. Like they like I used to
Right.
get tipped hardcore by certain cast members of the Avengers at jobs
Oh.
for just pretending like they were I didn't know who they were. Like I was just like because everyone
Hmm.
else would be like, "Oh my god, I love, you know,
Yeah.
and I would just be like, "So, do you want extra protein powder today or not?"
Yeah.
They'd be like,
Right.
$10, $10 tip. So it's like
Yeah.
maybe it's good that you don't give a shit about how awesome some of these people are, because you're just like,
Right.
cool, get in the
Well, it's also fun. Yeah, it's also fun. Like, depending on the person, they're usually pretty funny. Like, and I'm a relatively funny person, so it's like just fun to have banter. Like, to have, I don't know. It's fun. Like John Legend for this like thing for Headspace.
yeah,
I don't know. Like, we just had a real casual. Like, we just kept throwing jokes back and forth and stuff, and then he would
yeah,
just start singing out of nowhere, and then I would like sing along, like, just whatever. Like, it's just,
yeah. He's
but
he's funny.
yeah, he is funny. He's a magical debonair fellow.
Yeah, I
He just like blows.
I just I'm just like so curious sometimes about the dynamic between him and Chrissy, because I saw
Yeah,
the Between Two Ferns movie and was completely blindsided by the fact that like they had this like crazy plot line in it. I don't know if you've seen that,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. My
but you should since you've worked with
yeah.
him. Like they add a plot line where Chrissy Teigen is like kind of a romantic interest for Zach Galifianakis, like as
Hmm.
herself, and like John Legend is like not okay with it. Like it's like it's very fun, but like obviously I'm part of a actor filmmaker couple, so I think it's really cool when people can be like,
Hmm.
even makes a joke in that headspace thing about like you
Hmm.
get to sleep with me.
Yeah.
I'm a married man and I'm very happy. Like
Right. Yeah, it's weird. I've been sleeping on the Between Two Ferns movie because it was edited by my friend Hank Friedman, who edited my new movie, Destroy All Neighbors.
ooh, that's a good
Yeah,
connection.
it's like a yeah. He also is an editor on the Paul T. Goldman show. Um,
I lost
yeah,
sleep over that show. I was like, I'm just gonna watch an episode before bed, and then like my husband and I are up to like 3 in the morning because we need to know like how it ends.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
incredible. And so you guys worked on Destroy All Neighbors, which you told me is with Jonah Ray.
yeah. Jonah Ray is in it. Alex Winter. Um,
Alex Winter. Oh
yeah,
my God.
he was a South Pasadena guy.
Yeah.
Um, who else is in it? John Daly's in it. Uh, there may or may not be a little scene with a little guy named Camille Nanjiani. I don't know. He's not little,
Yeah.
he's very bulky. And Thomas Lennon is in it,
Oh my God.
from Reno 911.
Yeah, yeah.
My this guy Phil Hendry, who's like my hero. Like we got Phil Hendry in the movie. Phil Hendry is like um, he had a radio show on like again like because I lived here, I've probably been here longer than I've lived in back home. But Phil had this show where he had a talk radio show where he would interview these crazy people, and he'd get in, like the audience would get in, call in and get in these fights with these crazy characters. But it turned out that he was doing the voices of the crazy characters. So
So,
he would do that, like, "Hey, everybody, we're going to talk to this," and then he would like grab a phone and be
yeah.
like, and then sometimes he would have other voice, like he's
Yeah.
just an improv genius, like just a comedy god to me. And so we had this part for like a police captain, and I was like, "Hey, like, can we? Like, who do you want?" I'm like, "Phil Hendry," and they're like,
Yeah.
"Okay." And so that was very exciting. But then also we were able to get Gabe Bartalos, who
Okay.
did like there's a lot of practical effects in the movie. Gabe worked on like he did the Basket Case movies. Um, yeah, I think he's especially did like 2 and 3.
Uh-huh.
And then he also designed Aylmer from Brain Damage, which is like one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
Have you seen?
And such
Yeah,
a fun character too. Like I want to plushie.
yeah,
I want to plushie it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we had Bill Corso, who did like the applying of the makeup. So like Gabe designed the sculpt for. So the movie's about like the neighbor from hell, and Alex Winter is that neighbor, and
Oh my
he
God.
is all from day one. And like when we were coming up with the script, I was like, it's guy's got to be like a prosthetic like monster,
Yeah.
like I just love that vibe. I don't,
Yeah.
like old Ninja Turtles or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
love,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just something funny to me about it. And so yeah, so Gabe did the sculpt, and then Bill Corso, who he won an Academy Award, I believe, for Lemony Snicket. Like he did Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton one. Like,
Oh,
anyways, like these incredible, like world class
yeah.
effects guys. And it was just a blast. The whole like, because my whole thing, I don't know. Like this is the first movie that's like my aesthetic
Yours.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
That's my kind of like um I don't know, like it's like my distillation of like what I want to do and like who I am and whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, because like I've done, maybe like 100 music videos, and they're all kind of a commercial for that artist. And like you can see uh, my stamp on
Yeah. Yeah.
most all of them. Um, but it's like, like I like gloopy horror, geysers of blood and whatever, but still with like a sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't really see that often. That's why I was excited that you talked to Josh Rubin, because I feel like he's
Yeah.
kind of a kindred spirit in that way.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
like because that's the horror that I like. Like I know that like everyone's gung ho about like A24. Like I almost want to start a company called B23.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
And
but
that
that's
rhymes.
yeah. But like trauma as well. Like when I saw Brain Damage, I was like, oh, this is like a trauma movie, but like smarter, a little bit
Yeah.
smarter. You know what I mean? Not to say that trauma movies aren't smart, but like I feel like trauma like really leans into like just the exploitation. Like we're just gonna go wild and
Yeah.
zany.
Yeah. And there's like a certain because the thing is that when we look at movies, we want to see something that's even like some people want to see realism, right? But then some people want to
Hmm.
see like that next level that is so cinematic. And I think that
Hmm.
the best part that I had about like working with trauma movies and then like seeking out things that were kind of similar kindred spirit stuff is like
Hmm.
I can be like, knee deep in green goo and be like, I fucking love you. Like, and
Hmm.
that's the kind of
Right.
stuff that I
Yeah.
think is great, where it's like, because in real life, like we all, we have romance, but we don't talk about, relationships with people outside of like the gruesome stuff, like
Hmm.
like how romantic it is to have someone hold your hair back, like while you're throwing up and
Right.
telling you like
Yeah.
this, these brief moments. And yeah, I mean, I'm so hyped to see this movie because I'm big on
Hmm.
practical effects. I
Hmm.
I I am now a Jonah Ray fan after seeing Satanic Hispanics. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
which just got announced as having a theatrical release in September. So good on
Hmm.
everyone involved. But like
Yeah.
he has to go through a lot in that, and he's done other work like
Oh yeah.
where it's a gift when you have an actor who's willing to take what other people might see as goofy seriously, like the stakes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like that just makes me excited just because knowing some of his work and knowing your aesthetic, I'm like, ooh, practical
Yeah.
effects.
No, I mean, I'm so proud of him, like, for his performance in this movie. Like, I mean, I've followed his career for a long time. Like, I just
Yeah.
always, like, I listened to the Nerdist podcast, and, like, funny because I approached him at a grocery store, like, 15 years ago and was like, hey, like, we should be friends. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Um, but he hasn't really had a chance to do something, like, dramatic. Like, this has, like, I don't know. It's like very inspired by the Burbs. Like I feel
Oh
like he
yeah.
delivers that kind of Tom Hanks sort of
Ooh,
like,
that's say no more.
yeah,
Sold. Take my
very sweet and lovable. But then he like gets unhinged. But it's always like it's funny because when we first started sending the script out, like in its first iteration, a lot of the feedback because it's about a guy who ends up accidentally killing his neighbor, and maybe it's called Destroy All Neighbors. So
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
he
yeah.
destroyed some other people.
Yeah.
Um, there was the feedback of like this. Why do we care about this guy? Like, who is this guy? Like,
Yeah.
you know and I remember uh who's the guy that did the Paul Giamatti movie with the wine movie. Why
Uh
am I an election and
so we're talking about Sideways.
Alexander Payne.
Oh
Alexander
yes,
Payne.
Alexander. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry. I love Alexander Payne. I
Yes.
just don't keep his name in my brain.
I
But I remember like hearing him talk about, I think it was about Sideways,
mhm.
and he was talking about like the whole likability factor in Hollywood. It's always like, oh, is this character likable? And for him, he's like, it's casting is how if you cast somebody likable, like Matthew Broderick in Election,
Yeah.
like he's doing despicable stuff, but
Yeah.
it's freaking Matthew Broderick. So it's like even you're still gonna like. So that's kind of how it is with Jonah, where like you're along with him the whole time because you just kind of love this guy and you want him
Yeah.
to succeed.
Yeah.
I hope. I mean, in so many ways, like in that movie, he's very much like, I mean, he's very much an avatar for me. Like and because it's all he's a musician in the movie, and his whole goal is to record this perfect album. And so it was really crazy how, as you know, his goal, his like windmill he's chasing is recording this album, and then my windmill was like finishing the movie.
Mm.
So like as we were going, like just funny that like his goal in the movie was just so parallel,
Yeah.
just getting the damn thing done.
I mean
So
that's actually like beautiful because basically you're saying like the most perfect director actor or lead actor relationship is when you like see your goals in the same light and you give that like perspective for the audience. Like you go and you're like, there are a lot of films that use the lead actors as an avatar for the directors
yeah,
or the writer directors or the writers who you can tell their dialogue. Like I think about movies like Adaptation or um,
hmm
you know like just you see their tilt on life, and it's so much more clear when like you do sync up, because like I always say, it takes one thing to go wrong with a movie,
hmm
bad, but it takes a lot of things to go right, and usually that comes from a passionate, galvanizing director. When a director
yeah,
galvanizes everyone to just have fun,
yeah,
you can feel it. Like
yeah,
even if you objectively just write down like this is technically bad, like you're enjoying it because you're like,
yeah.
oh, this is fun, like to watch. So it's not actually like going wrong, and
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like we have a good amount of that in the movie. Like I hate it. I hate when I watch a movie and I'm like, oh, they're having way more fun than I am.
Yeah.
you know, like I was kind of hate watching the movie You People, and I'm like, I bet the catering was great. I bet they just laughed and laughed. And I'm like, I'm not really fully engaging with this movie, but they must have
Yeah.
had a good time. But like, there are moments in the movie where you can kind of, I don't know, just you can kind of feel the chemistry
Mhm.
between the. Oh, we also have this wonderful comedian named Dale
Mhm.
Deol. I never asked how to pronounce her last name, but she's just so funny and amazing and brilliant and all that stuff. And she plays um, this girl Emily, who is the love interest of Jonah, and just I don't know, like they have like real chemistry. Like you just really like these people,
Yeah.
um, and 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 the scenes between Alex and Jonah, um, they're just so they're just like a fun. I don't know. There's just like a bit of whimsy and just like it just has this feeling to me of like we're making a movie. Isn't this
Yeah.
great? like
I
um,
I adore Alex Winter and just the gift that he's
mhm.
given us in terms of sincere, wacky performances. Like
Yeah.
he's really like undersung in that sense. He's got kind of a baby face, he's got
hmm
kind of a whimsical look about him.
hmm
Um, but he manages to like tackle that perspective of that sincere, off the walls
Yeah.
sort of storytelling.
He's just
Oh,
he's just the best. I mean, he like because he and but that's part of kind of how we got it made was like he came on as a producer. Like we sent him the script and he's like, "This is great. Like, what do you want from me?" And I'm like, "Ooh, we need a producer, but like you could also be the main bad guy if you want." And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." But like him and Jonah um, as producers on the film, like they've been really hands on, like
yeah.
in the best way possible. And so, because yeah, like Freaked is one of my favorite movies. Like
Yes, it's
you
so
know, and it has a lot of similarities in terms of tone. Like
good.
maybe
Yeah.
didn't have the budget that they had, um, but he was able to pull a lot of favors from people that he worked with on that. And then also like the second Bill and Ted um, made a big impact on me. Like I rewatched it recently, and I was like, oh wow, like this is really crazy. Like it's
Yeah.
really there's a lot of horror kind of weird stuff going
Yeah.
on.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's about mortality and legacy, and
yeah,
the effect that you leave behind, which is, yeah. I mean, the most recent one, I was not expecting to like as much as I did. Like, and it has a lot
yeah,
to do with the work that they've done, and also just the respect that they have for the legacy of that particular franchise. So, it's so
yeah.
cool. When will people get to get their
Okay, so
eyeballs on?
it comes out. It will come out on Shutter.
Okay.
Like the plan, I think is like around Halloweenish or whatever.
Spooky season, I believe, is the
Spooky season, as they call it. So that's the plan. But then we're also hoping to run play it at some festivals and stuff like
cool,
that.
cool.
Um, I'd love to see it obviously like at Beyond Fest and like Fantastic Fest and like
I'm
because I
putting
think that's really like that's gonna be the audience.
Oh yeah, that I'm putting good vibes out. I really
Yeah.
really look forward to seeing it. It's so wonderful like having run into you and just you're kind of like tailor making something that I always look
Yeah.
always looking for since you because I read a lot of scripts. I get pitched a lot of
Hmm.
projects and like a lot of the thing I find sad is when like you have these ideas and then you don't the performers don't take it with the same sincerity or care and so then the movie it ends up
Hmm.
being dud but I have good vibes about this because you've got
Yeah.
to just do the workhorse stuff with the you've gotten to work on something that was someone else's property so you know what the difference is
Yeah.
and you know what
Yeah.
it is to work with music videos and commercials and so again it's just been so lovely talking to you and I hope that people get uh inspired and maybe like reach out to some bands because I know that like Spotify isn't giving
Hmm.
love to artists so maybe if you get a
Yeah.
viral music video like direct that shit. By the way, plugging myself, if you want me to direct your music video, like
Yeah.
I
Do
will
it.
do it for nuggets, chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets. But thank you again, Josh, for joining
Yeah.
me. And where can people
Anytime.
find you? You've got social media.
Yeah. I mean, I spend most of my time on Instagram. I think my thing on there is called the best Josh Forbes or
Oh,
best
because you
Josh
are.
Forbes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, and I was able to get joshforbes.com, which I'm very happy about.
Good. Good.
Um, yeah, so
We'll
I don't know.
find
You
you
can find my
there.
stuff there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and watch all the music videos. And yeah, see you guys next week with another new episode. And thanks again for
Hmm.
tuning in.